Hi, I'm Gary Lyon.
And I'm Matthew Lloyd, and today we're going to take you through the skills of Australian football.
Australian football is fun, fast and exciting, and is a sport in which everyone can participate. The major skill required for playing Australian football is the art of kicking. Players need to learn the critical elements of kicking from a young age.
Throughout this DVD, we look forward to bringing you some of the stars of the AFL who will demonstrate the various skills required to play this game.
So let's get it underway, beginning with the basic mechanics of kicking. The key to being able to kick well is to have a sound basic technique. While every player's kicking technique may be different and each player will develop their own natural kicking style that feels comfortable to them, there are some critical actions that should be consistent across all players.
Australian football kicking experts agree that the best place to start when teaching kicking is at the point of impact. The term impact refers to the point when the player's foot makes contact with the ball. If a coach has identified that a player's kicking performance is ineffective due to the ball not spinning backwards or having a poor flight pattern, then the first point of the kick to examine is the point of impact. The coach should then work backwards to evaluate other possible causes of the error. With every kicking technique and every kicking situation in a match being different, a focus on grip, approach, leg swing, follow through and so on is not as critical as what happens at impact. Players will learn to adapt these elements of kicking to the game situation they find themselves in. Some kicking situations in a match may mean the player does not have time to grip the ball normally, may have to kick off one step, or may have to produce a low flat kick that results in little follow through. However, one thing that doesn't change with kicking technique, regardless of the environment or pressure on the player, is impact. A player's ability to make strong, precise impact with the ball will ultimately decide if the kick reaches its intended target. To ensure impact is effective, there are three critical learning points that players must follow.
A player's ability to control the ball into the impact zone and onto their foot must be effective to allow the player to strike the bottom third of the ball to cause it to spin backwards. A player's ability to make the ball spin backwards is the first priority when learning how to kick. Once a player gains confidence and an understanding of what it feels like to get the ball to spin backwards, they can move on to other elements of the kick. Ideally, the player guides the ball down with the guiding hand, releasing it at the time the kicking foot leaves the ground, giving the player time to generate power. It is released from around hip level, with the guiding arm and hand controlling the path and orientation of the ball. The aim is to place the ball consistently in the individual's preferred position. During this process, the non-guiding hand comes off the front of the ball and swings up and back in an arc.
To kick the ball with penetration and distance, a player must generate a high level of lower leg speed. Lower leg speed will be generated through a number of elements, including taking a steadying, long-last stride, leaving the kicking foot behind. At this point, a player drives their kicking foot forward in an explosive action to make contact with the ball. A large wind-up is not needed to create an accelerated lower leg action. However, a quick knee extension is required. The kicking action is a very natural movement, as the thigh will de-accelerate to allow the lower leg to accelerate around the knee joint, so there is no need for coaches to be concerned with the sequence of movements. The follow-through of a kick is not of great consequence to the effectiveness of the kick. It is a part of the kicking action which flows naturally from the actions required prior to impact.
A firm foot refers to the player's foot at the impact point. For efficient impact, the player's foot and ankle must be fully extended, and when the foot makes contact with the ball, it presents the hardest and most stable platform possible. Contact with the foot should be around the top of the laces. Contact any further down the foot will involve a less stable platform and less efficient contact, and may also result in damage to the foot if consistently repeated. Johnny Wilkinson of England Rugby Union fame believes a firm foot is essential when kicking for goal. In order to visualise a firm foot necessary to kick the ball, he taps his foot on the ground and presses the studs of his right boot onto the hard platform of the left foot, just to remind himself of the correct part of the foot that he's about to use to impact the ball. Another example of this is when you punch a heavy bag. You'd not strike a punching bag with a weak or sloppy wrist, as it would be ineffective and probably hurt. Kicking a football is very similar. You need to punch the ball with a firm foot for it to be effective.
The outcome of the kick is critical, and the way the kick looks, feels and sounds to a player is important in learning, as it provides vital information related to the kicking action and possible improvements. There are two aspects of what a good kick should look like. The first relates to the flight of the ball. A quality kick will always spin backwards and stay vertical. This will ensure the ball's flight path remains consistent. A backwards spinning ball won't always ensure the ball goes straight, but if the ball is spinning backwards, it will go further and its flight path will be predictable. Often a player's natural kicking action, where the leg is swung around the body, will cause the ball to drift right to left for a right footer and left to right for a left footer. This is natural and should not be tampered with as long as it is effective and the player understands what the outcome of their kick will be. However, players who have a straight leg swing may find it easier to consistently reproduce effective impact. The second aspect of look relates to the kicking action and what a good action looks like. Players should be encouraged to visualise an effective kicking action and at various stages in the learning process be encouraged to see the appropriate grip, approach and height at which the ball is dropped.
Another important sensory factor relating to kicking is the feel of the kicking action. Players should be encouraged to feel the tension and stretch in various muscles throughout the kicking action. For example, at the point of lower leg acceleration, players should feel the tension in the muscles around their thigh. At the point of impact, the ball should feel light on the foot. The foot should be firm and absorb little shock. The kick shouldn't feel like you've had to kick it hard. Feel is extremely important when kicking, and players should feel like they have middled the ball at all times. A firm foot will create a greater sweet spot, and players should remember what it feels like to middle the ball and get it to spin backwards rapidly, and try to reproduce that feel every time they kick.
The sound at the point of impact should be a thud rather than a slapping sound. Players should be encouraged to listen for the sound on each kick and learn to associate the appropriate sound with good contact with the foot. This information can assist in evaluating the effectiveness of the kick and making modifications for the next kick. How the kick looks, feels and sounds are inherent characteristics of the kicking action. All three are important learning tools as they allow a player to practice on their own, as look, sound and feel provide immediate feedback to the player. It is important players understand all of these characteristics.
Players can emulate good kicks such as Lindsay Gilbey, Alan Didak, Daniel Rich, Trent Cotchin and Aaron Davey. While these players all have slightly different kicking techniques, the critical elements of kicking, controlling the ball onto the foot, lower leg acceleration and a firm foot at impact, are clearly displayed by all these players. Observing good players kicking is a great way to learn.
The torpedo is used to gain maximum distance when kicking. When kicked correctly, the torpedo will spin in a spiral motion, nose first rather than spinning backwards like a drop punt. To kick a torpedo, the player holds the ball at a slight angle across the body, with the nose of the ball angled down. For a right footer, the player's right hand is held slightly back from the left hand, which is offering support towards the nose of the football. The ball must be guided down at the same angle it is being gripped. Contact with the ball at this angle results in the ball spinning around its long axis. The spiral motion results in the ball having less drag through the air and therefore staying in the air longer and travelling further than a drop punt kicked with the same force and trajectory. The elite players in the AFL are capable of kicking the torpedo around 70 metres.
The banana kick is considered one of the most difficult kicks in the game and is used to bend the ball in a left to right direction through the air for a right foot kick. The grip is the exact opposite to a torpedo, where the nose of the ball points at a slight angle to the right side of the player. The player's guiding hand is placed towards the nose of the ball, while the non-guiding hand is further to the top of the ball. The player faces their body slightly away from the target, which should be on the player's right-hand side, with the nose of the ball facing the target. The kicking line of the foot is also across the target, away from the imaginary straight line between the player and the goal. The right foot impacts the left end of the ball to ensure the ball moves in a right-sided curve, as well as imparting right side spin to the ball.
The snap kick is generally used when shooting for goal from a tight angle, when the player wants to move the ball from right to left through the air for a right foot kick. The grip of the ball is the same for a banana kick, however the body is aligned in an opposite direction when aiming at the target. The target is on the player's left-hand side and the player should kick the ball on its right end, which imparts left side spin, so the ball moves on a left side curve. So there you have it, everything you need to help master the art of kicking.